it's like bang, 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 I'm alive. And you're like, okay.
This is my currently dead Ducati ST2. Now, in the last video, I discovered that the wiring loom up the front end of the bike was all crusty and corroded and crispy, which would explain why I was getting some weird faults with it. I had no ignition, and when I did force 12 volts onto the ignition, the main beam light thought it was the neutral light, the battery light thought it was the flashing indicator light, so something seriously wrong going on there. So I've decided to replace the front end of the loom, which is what I'm going to do in this video and hopefully get this bike started. So I bought this replacement loom from eBay for about 50 quid. It wasn't expensive, and it is, even though it's secondhand, it is in much, much better condition than the one that's existingly on the bike. Existingly? The one that's currently on the bike. So, without further ado, I need to take all these panels off to be able to get access to the front of the bike. So, I need to take the side panels off, the main fairing at the front off, and then we can see where we're at with that. So, to get the side fairings off, they've been off before in the last video, and I've actually only put them back on with like one screw, so they'll come off really easily. The front one, however, I need to take the wing mirrors off. Wing mirrors. Do you call them wing mirrors on a motorbike? I'm going to take the mirrors off, and then there's a few screws around the outside, and I think the main fairing the front upper fairing just comes off quite easily from the front. Well, we'll find out, won't we? So I'm going to crack on and do that. I'm going to take the side panels off, take the mirrors off, and then we'll go from there. It's been mentioned in the comments that the worn off black on here, I thought it was worn off standard black, but no, it turns out, thanks to you guys in the comments, that this is actually originally silver. I mean, it's had a carbon fiber fake sticker thing stuck on there, which I'm going to take off. But this has been painted by a previous owner, and exactly the same with the exhaust. These are the original exhaust pipes, however, they have been painted. Now, here I have an acetone soaked pad. Now, if this is paint, then oh my gosh, look how easily it removes that. So in theory, it should work on the exhaust as well, and I know it does because here's a little patch I played around with earlier. So, in all fairness, shouldn't take me too long to get this looking stock, which is exactly what I want. I mean, it is gonna take a while to get all this black paint off this exhaust. However, it's gonna look wicked when I've done it, and I'll do the same. Well, this should come off here as well. Yep. So a little bit of elbow grease, a lot of acetone, and this will be looking nice and stocky. So I'll do that, and then you'll see that later at some point. I know there's been some concern about me having, well, 4 bikes and never finishing a project and blah, blah, blah. The plan is, currently, plans change, but the current plan is to get this Ducati road legal, ride it around and have it as my daily, and then get the FZR through the MOT. Now, once the FZR is through the MOT and on the road, I will then sell the Ducati. And then the best part of the plan is, here, I will put the GPZ, as it is, in the back of the car, drive it to Bedford, and then that will be the new project that I'll be working on in Bedford. And the booster, well, the booster is just my Cardiff bike. Both mirrors have been removed by me. So this should come off. It is off. Obviously, we've still got indicators attached though. So take the bulbs out of the indicators. Yay! Is that it? I'm not gonna lie, that's probably one of the easiest fairings I've ever taken off of a motorbike. They're normally an absolute nightmare. Especially on the Thundercat. Oh my gosh, the Thundercat. When I took that off, it took hours. Right, next. This is actually brilliant. We can actually see most of that wiring loom, which is quite cool. Bulb looks good. Best be careful with it because I don't have any more of those. Right. Okay, so next up, I'm going to take the clocks off. Do I need to take them off? Yes, probably. Clocks are plugged into these two connectors here. I think that's just for the little speedo dial clock thing, right? So there's 2 bolts on there, one on either side. Now the little bulbs for the indication lights, so main beam, neutral, etc., etc., they're numbered on the wiring loom. As you can see, the new to me wiring loom, they are, each one has a numero on. So can you see that? Numero 2. Numero 2. Numero 2. Whatever. I don't speak any languages. I barely speak my own. Not sure where that bulb came from. I mean, it's supposed to be... That's supposed to be somewhere, right? Interesting. Well, it's actually interestingly worrying because that might suggest someone's been in here before. Which is always worrying. I don't like fix it. Oh my gosh. You gotta have a look at this. There's 2 wires there that I believe are supposed to be attached to those 2 frayed ends there. So they'll need putting back together. Well, they won't because I've got a new loom. Okay. Right, so I'm going to just carry on taking bits off. I'm going to... Well, I think I can... Oh, what's that? There's a bit of bike there. I'm going to hopefully get away with just being able to... I'm going to take the clocks off because I think it will help me. In order to get to the nuts that hold the clocks to the bracket, you need to take the bracket off the bike. So that's what I'm doing now. So there's 3 bolts. There's one there, one here, and one in the side at the bottom that I've already taken off. And this should remove the bracket from the bike. So now if I unplug all the wires, we should be able to remove the clocks. So something's definitely been replaced here before. I'll explain what's going on in a second. Right, let me try and untangle that and get it off. So I've just taken out the last bulb, and there's, well, bulb holder, because there's no actual bulb in there. And then there was an extra bulb that wasn't plugged into anything. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with this loom, to be honest. Wait a minute, there are 4 bulb holders. Well, no, I've got 5 bulbs on that loom, so not entirely sure what the crack with that is. But anyway, clocks are removed. Now you see what I mean? On the back of them, so this is the bracket that holds the clocks to the bike. Oh, there is, wait, is that another bulb? No, I'm not sure what that is, but it's supposed to be obviously not have 2 wires dangling out of it. Maybe there's been some sort, I bet that's for the oil LED. Right, okay. So anyway, so there was actually, you see how kind of loose this is? Well, that's because I undid that. So I'll just pop that back on there so I don't lose it or forget where it went. The bolt that went in there was missing, and the bolt that holds that to there is also missing. Oh, actually, that rubber, so that rubber stop there, you can see it's kind of broken, so the bit that that's supposed to attach to no longer attaches to it. Okay, with the headlight and main beam bulbs, the one on the right as I'm sitting on the bike is black and white. The one on the left is black and yellow. Black and yellow, black and yellow. Okay. That's mainly a note for me to remember which way to put them back in. Now, I've had a look at the other loom, and I've also got 4 bulbs and 1 empty bulb. I think maybe the empty bulb was not supposed to be plugged in, and the one with the bulb was supposed to be plugged in. I don't know. You can tell me in the comments what's going on with that. I've just solved the mystery of why the main beam light was on instead of the neutral light, and it's because these are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 2 was in there. So that's kind of resolved that issue. Right, cool. So to disconnect the, well, so this, no, wait, why was that? Did you see that? That just splashed me. Why did I get splashed? That's full of, oh my gosh, that's absolutely full of water. And that goes up to, that goes up to the starter switch. Okay, can you see this on my hand? Oh my gosh. Wait, is it water or is it? Yeah, it's definitely water. Well, that's not a good sign, is it? Water in the main bit that starts the bike. I'm gonna have to try and dry that out somehow. Hairdryer, airline, don't know. Right, I'll come back to that. Anyway, the clip that connects it to that holds the loom in the bike, unfortunately, annoyingly, I have to undo this. Bear with me to get that off of there. Right, and now I need to take this bracket off of here to feed the wires back up through. Probably don't need to take it off. I might be able to get away with just slackening them off. That's wishful thinking, isn't it? Yep. Stop messing around, actually. Just take it off. Take 2 seconds. 1, 2. See, told you. I make myself chuckle. Right. Now I know I'm not going to do that up tight. I'm just put that in there so I remember where the bolt goes. Okay, so that's, yeah, that is a problem. That had a lot of water in it. Can you see what? Oh no, you can't see what I'm doing there. So if I pull back the rubber sheathing, okay, so it is kind of watery proof in there, but still shouldn't be full of water. I mean, look at the floor. All that came out of there. Bad. Hello, FZR in the background. So with most of that out of the way, I can now go around to the other side. So looking here, it looks like there's 2 bolts to take the fuse box off of there. Oh, actually, no, that's wrong, because this actually just pulls off because it's sitting in rubber things. However, the replacement fuse box on the replacement loom doesn't have those attached to it, so I'm going to have to try and get them off without rounding any screws off. That's off. Now it should just be a case of kind of just loosening and pulling stuff through. Might come through there. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm gonna do what I can. I don't suppose you can see very well. It's very dark. I mean, it's raining like crazy outside, and I'm inside the unit, which doesn't have any lights. So I've kind of set myself up with a couple of strip lights, but that's as much light as I've got. So with all the clips and plugs unplugged and unclipped, this should hopefully just come out. Yeah, woo! Right, well that wasn't too taxing at all, to be honest. Quite like working on this bike. It's nice to work on something that isn't rusty, to be honest. Assembly is reversal of removal, so I'm gonna feed that back in there and put the wires kind of where they're supposed to be and start putting it all back together. That's my plan. That is my current plan. I'm gonna clean. Wow, this plug actually has some. This plug has some contact grease in there already, and it actually looks in pretty good condition. There's some other bits and pieces as well that look all right, which is nice. So here's a design flaw if I've ever seen one. This mounts this way up, right? So as you can see, rainwater can quite easily just seep behind the rubber seal and get into all the wires behind there. Terrible design. So I will put some sort of preventative means to stop that from getting water in. Whether that means running a bead of silicone around it or not, I'm not sure. I just want to get it on the bike and make sure it actually works first before I start doing anything like that. The loom is kind of back on and in place. I've done the whole of the left side, put the fuse box in. I've replaced these with nice shiny new stainless steel Allen bolts. I've used the existing sensors that were on the bike rather than the ones that were plugged into the loom, generally because they looked a bit nicer. Now I'm going to hold these bulbs up to the light and see if the filaments are okay, and then use the best of what I can find. I've already fed that through there, but I haven't tightened that back on there, so I'm going to do that, and then we'll get the clocks back over here. I'll make sure I've plugged in everything else that isn't clocks, and it looks like I have, apart from that goes somewhere. Oh, I think that might be the indicator. So let's get the clocks back on and see where we're at. Slight change of plan to that. I'm just going to put the headlight bulbs back on. So you've got a wire that's attached to the bulb, and you've got a wire that's attached to the loom. Yeah, same on both sides really. So I'm going to do that because I think they're going to be in the way, because they need to go in before I put the clocks on. Well, they probably don't need to, but I think it'll be a lot easier because then the clocks won't be in the way. Right, I'm going to do that. That was fairly fiddly, but I've got them both in, and now I can put the clocks on. So the clocks have a slight modification in them, I think. This LED here is not standard, and there's nowhere to connect those wires to. Now, this bit of bodgery here is actually the oil light. I don't understand why the wires are red and blue, because on the wiring diagram they are black and blue, which matches the loom coming out of the bike. So I'm not entirely sure what's happened here. I want the oil light to indicate where the oil light is, so I'm going to put some bullet connectors on here and kind of ignore this here for now. I think it's probably a little blinky alarm light. I'll probably, if I put 12 volts on it, it'll probably start blinking. But not too interested in that at the minute. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Fix this. And here is my repair. Now I've disconnected, well, I say disconnected, I've chopped off the end for that little blinky light. I've left it so there's the option to rewire it back in the future. But I've extended the wires for the old oil light. I tested it with a battery and it does work, and I've put these on in the correct correspondence to the ones that are on the loom on the bike. So let's pop this back together now, finally. I'm just putting in the bolt at the bottom. That's how confident I am that this is going to be okay. And then I need to put the bulbs back in the top here. Oh, I found out the mystery of the missing bulb. So I'm guessing they use the same loom on this as they do a slightly different design, which doesn't have the little LCD screen. And it is for that, because you can't backlight this little screen, which is why there's no bulb in there. So you've got two bulbs for each of the main dials, and then one bulb for that third dial. So I'm guessing on a different model, there is a bulb in whatever it is. Right, so let's pop that big one in there. There we go. Now, remember these are numbered? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on there. So 2 needs to go in there for the neutral light, which makes sense because it was in the dip beam socket. This one, oh, that's a shame. That's been... Okay, so it's not cut, but it is right. I need to get. I'm going to put a little bit of tape on there to protect that, because it's, well, you probably can't see from there. Let me show you. Zoom. Pretty good zoom on this phone, to be honest. Can you see there? Slight fraying of wire. And because it's only a bulb and it's low power, I'm just going to repair it with a little bit of tape, because the copper wire itself hasn't actually been damaged. I think it's just been snagged on something during disassembly, I would have thought. What number is that then? We'll leave that one till last because it doesn't have a number. Right, 1. 1 goes in there. In it goes. What number is that one? 3. And this one is 5. So mystery one is 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the end. And mystery one in the middle. Right. That should That should work. Oh, let's pop the indicators back in so they flash. It's been modified in such a way that you can actually still use the original connector. Well, that's handy, isn't it? Okay, now I think it's quite obvious that not much is going to happen without a battery. So let's pop the battery in. Now I'm not going to connect the what do we call it? The rectifier back up at the minute because A, I don't have a soldering iron with me capable of soldering that enough, and B, I really want to just investigate it a little bit more because, well, I need to make sure it's a good one. Well, buy socket. Use a spanner instead. What doesn't make me happy is awful battery terminals that have a silly loose square nut thing in the bottom that never sits right. Right, positive connected, negative connected. Let's see what happens. Ready for a bang? Right, everyone in position. I have the key. Ready? I don't want to turn it. What if I'm disappointed? Okay, ready? Nothing. What have I done wrong? I must have done something really wrong. Oh dear. Oh, what a disappointment. Don't tell me the other half of the loom needs replacing as well. No, there must be something I'm missing. Is the battery flat? Maybe the battery's flat. I mean, that's hopeful, isn't it? Right, let's see if I'm going to measure the battery. Okay, so obviously I'm very disappointed with that. Now, what I've got here is my positive wire. And this just goes to show that there is actually no voltage getting to the main fuse. But if I stick 12 volts on the main fuse, I get all the bells and whistles. So I get my little screen lit up, I get my neutral light, my battery light, which I would expect. If I put the main beam on, I get main beam. So everything is working. Unfortunately, I'm missing a power wire going to there. So I've turned my light off now so you can see properly. Look at that. I guess I've got a bit more investigating to do. It's getting late. I'm gonna hit the sack and then revisit this in the morning. Good morning. It is the morning after. I slept on it and I thought about it and I went all the way through the wiring diagrams and we still have a problem with the battery being connected to the front loom. The red wire on the drawing is not going to the main 30 amp fuse at the top. So what I've done to save wiring all the way through the bike, now just to test this, I've gone from the battery to the ignition switch, which is the positive from the battery into the key. Now basically what this is doing at the minute is bypassing the fuse. So I've got two choices here. I can either replace the entire loom and hope that solves the problem, or I can replace the connection between the battery and that 30 amp fuse. With this plugged straight into the ignition, just because I can't easily push it and keep it into where the fuse is, I can test everything. So let's do that anyway. Okay, so turn the ignition on and we get lights. We get backlights, flashy light, main beam light comes on. Neutral light isn't on, interestingly. Is that because it's not in neutral? Should be in neutral. Oh, the neutral light is on. Is that a dodgy switch, is it? I'm not sure what low flashing temperature thing means. Does that mean the temperature sensor's not working? Half a tank of fuel, which is quite nice. And horn works. Indicators. Now this seems to flash a bit quick, in my opinion. I'm not sure. What do you think? And the other side, they both flash. Where's it gone? They both flash quite quickly. Now, if that was a car, I'd suspect that there was a bulb out, but you've only got one at the front and one at the back on this. So the back ones, I think, are LEDs, which is possibly upsetting how much resistance a bulb is created. I don't know. Anyway, they work. And dip beam, main beam works. I don't know if the fuel light works because there's half a tank of fuel in it, but oh, and the fuel pump works. So if I turn the kill switch on, listen. So fuel pump is also working, and I'm confident that if I reconnect this stator wire, it's not even a stator wire, is it? If I connect this generator to regulator wire and put the starter motor back on the battery, I reckon it'll start. I'm going to go get the soldering iron. I've been out this morning and I've bought myself a nice brand new Fluke multimeter. The last one started being dodgy and I didn't trust anything that it was telling me. So I wouldn't like to say how much the Fluke was. It was quite expensive. But this is my old one, and this was 20 quid from Toolstation. Now if you put it on volts and then try and put it on DC volts, it kind of doesn't. But if you press on that and then put it on DC volts, it goes DC volts as soon as you take your finger off, right? So there's only one place for this, really, isn't there? Now in the comments someone said disconnect the battery when I'm checking resistance, so thanks for that. Yeah, you're right. So from the battery like terminal here, you've got multi wires. It's not just one big thick wire. There's 4 wires in there, I think. Now one of them goes to this fuse for the starter relay. Take that out, throw it across the floor. Yep. There you go. So that one's definitely working. Now under the seat you've got 3 fuses here. I believe these are for the ignition system. And all 3 of them are connected to the battery, which is what I would expect. And lastly, there should be a connection going to this multi-pin plug here that connects the 2 looms together. So here's the fun part. Inside this plug from the battery, I have a good connection there to pin 6 of that connector. From what I can tell, well, I'm just going to count it to 6, right? So that's pin 6. Now on the wiring diagram, that means that pin 6 here should be connected to the 30 amp fuse in the fuse box, but it's not. For some reason, if I put that on the 30 amp fuse, pin 6, there's no contact. However, pin 5, there is a very good contact. That makes no sense. You're not going to believe this. Pin 5 and pin 6 on there, as I'm calling them, should be both connected to 30 amp fuse because one is for the ignition and it's directly connected. So it sends the 12 volts from the 30 amp fuse from the battery to the ignition switch and then back up through this connector. You're not going to believe this, but I think the loom I've just replaced on the front of the bike is also faulty. I can't believe that. That's crazy. But there's definitely supposed to be continuity between that pin and the 30 amp fuse. Oh my gosh. Right, fault finding 101. This big chunky red wire here, as you can see, is supposed to be connected to the 30 amp fuse, as I've said a few times now. And watch this. It's not connected to the plug. It's exactly the same fault as the other loom that I've got. Right, I'm going to try and see if I can solder that back on there. eBay. New plan. I have surgically removed this from the old wiring loom and I'm going to clean it up. Take off the plastic housing off the wires and then solder this straight back to that red wire and then push that through the connector, thus replacing the connection between this and the red wire. Does that make sense? Yeah. Move off this plastic so we can solder straight to the bare copper. Crash. Doesn't look great, but doesn't look too bad. Solder that to the red wire. Okie doke. So, I mean, this soldering iron is not great. It's old and doesn't really work very well. As long as I can get enough heat into the wire for it to absorb some solder, that'd be great. I have a pure hatred for this soldering iron. Right, a soldering iron is a complete and utter waste of my time. So we're going crimping. We're going crimping. I got no choice, unfortunately. This is the way this is going to have to be done. And that's not going to work, is it? Because I'm not going to get the rubber cover back on. So what I'm going to have to do is cut that red wire back to there. It needs to be soldered. Plan C. I've taken the insulation off of the crimpy tube bit, and I'm going to just put that in there like that. Making sure I get all the strands of wire in there like that. Now crush that. Cool, right, yeah, like I said, worst soldering iron ever. So we're resorting to crimp. I don't see the harm in this. I mean, it's no less of a connection than this actual connector, is it? So, yeah, no, I reckon that'll actually fit down there. I think I'll still be able to get this cover on. Wishful thinking, wishful thinking. Okay, so ideally we want that in there as far as we can get it. So cut that a bit shorter. Oh, let's put a bit of insulation on there. Now hopefully I can push that back through there. Ow. Oh, I've managed to wriggle it through just enough to be able to get the grips on there. That's, oh, come on. There we go. Right. That, hopefully, is a result. Right, now, back to the regulator. I found some paperwork in the service history manual. This was only changed in May, I think it was, around the time of the MOT. And it was 150 quid, so it's not a cheapy 30 quid eBay jobby. And if you look, it has been installed with the heat paste compound on it. That's that white stuff underneath the regulator. So I'm actually, I suspect Ducati unsoldered it to do some tests or something. Right, connector all connected up, and I've sorted all the wiring out for the rectifier regulator, reconnected the battery. Now, let's see, do we have ignition? Yes, we do. And everything seems to be working. Flashy, flashy, flashy lights. Yes, cool. Right, let's get it outside and see if it starts. Right, cross your fingers, cross your toes. Let's see what happens. Pull the choke out. Ready? Right, I'm going to put the fairings back on and then take it for a ride. As we all know, assembly is reversal of removal. So front upper fairing first, then the side fairings, and well, that's it really, isn't it? So I will get an action camera. I'm thinking of the DJI something 3 or the 4, depending on how much they are. So you can come with me for a ride at some point. Kate's come to have a look at the Ducati. Oh my gosh, look at that go. What do you think?
Okay, I like the balance, it's nice. I like the colour, because I'm a girl, and that's the kind of things that we like. But I will say, it's very, very noisy. I don't like dry clutches. This is very, very, very bangy. It's honestly, you turn it on and it's like bang, 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 I'm alive. And you're like, okay, that's cool, but Oh, my bike already makes a lot of noise. I don't need one that makes this much noise. So I'm going to say, on the Kate scale, very ill today, the Kate scale of 0 to Ducati, I'm going to rate it blubby.
Great. In the next video, I will be going through all the issues that this might still have. After I've given it a ride, I'll find out more, I guess. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Cheers!